or presents Pomp and Circuitry.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And welcome to college. Use sunscreen. Remember that? That was on a radio.
Yeah, a lot. Was it Boz Lerman?
I don't think it was Boz Lerman. Was it Boz Lerman?
I believe it was Boz Lerman.
Weird.
Yeah.
Will his crimes ever end?
No, I don't think they will.
Sucks.
I don't think he got to make an awful lot of stuff after that Australia movie flopped.
Yeah. Fuck that guy. We're back in the second half of season 4.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing Sphinx stuff. We're doing college stuff. We're doing Phantom Limb stuff. We're getting the Revenge Society back together. It's all good stuff.
Yeah. I'm here for the sweetness of the boys, growing up and facing down the future. I can take or leave Phantom Limb.
I like it because it leads to Bright Lights, Dean City.
Of course.
Which I really love.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that Doc and Jackson like Phantom Limb a little bit more than I do.
I think so too. Yeah.
Which is okay.
Yep.
Also, hey everybody, guess who's back? Baron Underbite.
He is.
We all wanted him.
Everybody was clamoring for Baron Underbite. He was an afterthought in this episode, and then they put in stuff, and it was like, let's just cut that out. Let's just have him ask for a job at the end.
Yeah. Just Biteheads renown. Rejoice.
Yeah.
This episode is a Jackson Public episode, originally aired on September 19th, 2010. Primarily concerns the boys graduating from quote-unquote high school. They're learning beds. They've done enough learning, and they have to figure out what comes next.
Yeah. So Dean gets swept up by Rusty, who has already made it clear that he wants his favorite son to follow in his footsteps, going into super science, studying at State University. Meanwhile, Hank ends up following in Brock's footsteps, primarily because initially it seemed like he doesn't graduate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very cute scene at the end with that. There's also, as we mentioned, Phantom Limb coming back, Professor Impossible, kind of bringing back the Revenge Society. The fact that this is just Phantom Limb coming back after just recently having come back makes me wonder about, those are two different episodes penned by both the writers, and it's like they both want a chance at the apple almost.
Maybe. It almost seems like a communication problem, actually.
Yeah.
No, we already did this. I was covered. It's covered in this other episode.
Clearing the way for Phantom Limb to become like the major sounding board for Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch in the last season and not really do jokes anymore.
Yeah.
They kind of stopped deciding to make him funny at all in the end. The other big addition here in the meta is Bill Hader. Coming in to voice Professor Impossible, so replacing Stephen Colbert. And then he also lends his Vincent Price impersonation to Phineas Phage.
Yes. I forgot that Phineas Phage shows up so quickly after we introduced the anecdote about the scientist friend who was fascinated by phages.
Yep. He's like, I got to do it immediately. It's so good. It has to happen.
Strike while the iron's hot. Yeah.
For people who don't know, so this is based on Phineas Gage.
Yes.
The man, he famously had this very profound personality change after he had this severe brain injury.
Yeah, a railroad spike pierced his brain in a very particular way.
Yeah, he got spiked. And then it's also a mashup with a bacteriophage, or phage, which is eating. So, phage, which is a type of virus that looks real cool.
Looks like it's that virus that looks like a cool robot that if you're like me, you had always been like, it's like, sweet, viruses rule. Prior to 2020.
Did you ever play with I'm sure I've talked about this before, but germs toys?
No, I never had those.
They're little rubber goblin-y cartoon germs that came in test tubes, and they're the coolest thing.
Ooh.
I love them as a kid, and they're very expensive to get now. But they were rad.
Well, that's too bad.
I don't think they made a phage, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well,
He's also kind of based on, there's a Fantastic Four villain, like the Wizard.
okay.
His headset is kind of like, I don't think that is pointed out anywhere, but he reminds you of the Wizard. And it makes
Yeah.
sense for him to be the arch of Dr. Impossible, or
Yes.
Professor Impossible.
Yeah, it would be easy enough to believe that was an influence, given the stated Fantastic Four appreciation that they have. The commentary is fun. One, because there's kind of a long discussion about how Phantom Limb's powers work. Like they have to work in a very particular way that wasn't necessarily explained for one scene to work. So they're just kind of going back and forth, just, bouncing explanations off. There's also a discussion of pee bottles, because Richard Impossible has gone full Howard Hughes up in his penthouse there. The story of the 9-year-old piss bottle comes back, which I only bring up because they talk about it being a science experiment, and Doc Hammer has the amazing line, "I'm trying to turn it into a block of my bodily salts."
It's I spend a lot of time envying the Astrobase.
It would be horrible.
But the fact that there are jars of piss everywhere and they smoke inside it, basically erases all of that.
Yep.
Like it'd be real cool. And I want that for me, but I want one without the piss and smoke.
If you're taking requests.
Yeah. Put piss in a toilet, people.
Yeah.
We're failing that a damp, wet sack. I cannot stress this enough. Yeah. It's because he wants to eventually sell it on eBay. It's like, if you ever see this like brown, resin block the shape of the bottom of a bottle on eBay, get it, because that's my piss. It unlocked a memory for me that's real gross.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell everybody, fast forward about 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this. During one of my Dickensian upbringing things, when I lived in an apartment basically by myself, I had a fridge or a kitchen attached to my bedroom zone. And so I had my own fridge at like 13 or whatever.
Okay.
And I joked a lot about coming into ice cube trays and starting my own sperm bank.
Okay.
Never did it, but I just used to joke with my friends about that.
That's nice to have the option.
Yeah, don't look in the freezer. That's what this reminded me of.
Yeah.
But I was like 20 years younger than Doc.
Yeah.
At the time. So.
Oh my gosh. I can't brook the piss bottle, because as a person who used to use dipping tobacco, at one point in my life I was very comfortable just having a spit bottle around. And as I haven't done that for 11 years now at this point. Thinking back to when that was just acceptable, it is very strange. It feels like a different person.
It's disgusting.
It is.
You're a better person.
I know.
Like, yeah, way better. Absolutely repulsive.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just just be real careful what you put in bottles. Would be my would be my life lesson off the back of this.
Indeed. Or what you keep around.
Yeah.
If you put it in a bottle, just throw it away.
Yeah.
Why are you keeping it? God, it's fucking weird. It's gross. Let's get into it. This is kind of a middle of the road episode, but there's lots of fun to be had.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
we open in the learning bed. I love that we get to see the lessons here, and it is just Jonas spouting random facts. Like there's no cohesion. Like it's not like a particular class. It is just bouncing all over the place. Another great detail: every time he addresses the student, it is just an overdub of Rusty going, "Hank and Dean."
Yeah, because it used to be Rusty. He's just repurposing his dad's. This is the education he got. The wake up when he wakes up, the Dean wakes up and you get the little pomp and circumstance played on a MIDI as it prints out a diploma. For him, very funny.
Yeah.
Hank has slept through it because he's got a blindfold and earplugs in. And I love also when Dean's there, his face is kind of twitching, like them not getting a restful sleep for
ever in their lives
because of the learning beds.
It's like hypnospace. So
very smart.
Yeah, and just I love the fact that like Hank has. I mean, it's a little bit like foreshadowing, but Hank is clever enough to figure out like how to get an actual night's sleep in this bed. Like, oh yeah, he's deprived himself of the benefit of the education, so that's part of why he is the way he is. But he doesn't get a diploma as a result of this. He didn't, at least it seems, because he didn't take the classes. Nothing prints out of his bed. So, we got ourselves a dropout.
And it's not like the bed knows what he's doing.
Right.
It should be obvious that this doesn't make sense, but it's played for comedy later in a good way.
Yeah.
He's like, we can finally get super sweet to bunk beds. Which is, like, they're 18. That's a good detail. Get our credits. We open up to the council. The town council is talking about replacing Councilman 8, Red Mantle, because he's like, I still count. It's like, well, kinda. It's not like we're the same guy. Well, it kinda is. They're going back and forth. And we go below this to Phantom Limb, who is in his cell. He's bearded, his hair is all long, his limbs have all been cut off, and he's talking to Wisdom there telepathically. Mm-hmm. Or no, he's got Wisdom there. They're coming to take him, but he's talking. Yes. Eventually, talks to his other guards telepathically, or so it seems.
Yes. He's just talking to this. The guard's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this." One says, "Oh, you should you should feel lucky." Apparently, he has conjugal visits with a shoe. With Lady Nightshade, yeah. I think is that what he called the shoe?
Yeah, that's Lady Nightshade. She's spoken for.
Yeah.
They take Wisdom, they put him in a filing cabinet, and he seemingly psychically calls out to them. What he's doing is he's controlling his limbs.
Yeah.
That he has when they're away from his body. Mm-hmm. This is what that long discussion was in the commentary, and it's a little silly.
Yeah.
Because they start telekinetically moving around. The reason why I think it's silly is because it's established that they don't really move in the other one. Mm-hmm. The other episode with the Revenge Society.
Yeah.
Like he's just supposed to be cuckoo bananas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I could believe that he has limited psychic powers. I really didn't. I didn't sweat this detail about it.
I don't sweat details too much in the Venture Brothers, in a general sense,
Yeah.
I think it makes more sense that he can just control his limbs when they're off his body, but like it feels like a lot of setup for kind of a small amount of payoff to me.
Yeah. It's a clever escape because the shoe jumps out and like kicks one of the guys, and then the toaster starts a fire, raising an alarm. And I love that the toaster, what's the toaster's name?
I can't remember the toaster.
Yeah.
Which one the toaster is.
But the toaster kills the guard.
The guard drops a clip.
Yeah.
Which the toaster grabs.
The guard drops a banana clip magazine, and just the toaster lowers the loaded clip in, and that causes the bullets to fire and kill the guards.
Yeah. It's great. Even though it should be illegal to use the Wilhelm scream.
Yes.
Yeah. It pops up here and it's obnoxious as hell.
Outlaw it. Lim's arm and leg return to him. I love that he has named them Armando and Lieutenant Shankly.
Yeah, Lieutenant Shankly is really good
because it's his left leg.
We cut over to Watch and Ward as if they're watching and just like, look at that, don't move, you've got a bug on you. It's very funny. I love those guys. The Lim gets all his files out, pulls out a picture of the Boys Brigade from 1966. Up in the council, they're like, well, there's another movement on the floor, and it's a big shit.
Yes.
That Phantom Limb is invisibly taken or placed there.
Yes, it is a turd in the shape of an R that does a cross dissolve match cut to Billy, who is looking at a page. He has had the kids write down their preferred careers. Billy is brought in, just the family friend, brought in as the guidance counselor for the state mandated 2 hours of guidance counseling that high school students are supposed to have.
Yeah, it's a guy who you barely know who gives you career advice, even though his career is guidance counselor.
Yeah.
He's asking them what they want to be. Hank says he doesn't want to go to college. He's decided to become a drifter.
Yeah. Well, that's the opposite of a career.
He's like, no, you can make tons of money. What about David Duchovny? Going around reading sexy letters. It's like, no, that's Red Shoe Diaries. He has a fixed address. What about Dr. Bruce Banner? He's like, well, Dr. Bruce Banner was a scientist. We're looking at this many years of college, just shooting down his ideas.
Yeah. He wants to. His second choice is owner and operator of Chimp Eden.
I love Chimp Eden. So it's like, well, we're looking at 4 years of veterinary school on top of a bachelor's degree.
Well, his initial
take all the joy out of Chimp Eden.
Well, that's barely saner. On his list, he has 2 different eras of Batman. He's got Silver Age
Post-crisis.
Batman and Post Crisis.
And then Secutor, which I love, he's like, that's a Roman gladiator. And he's like, not like those other wussy ones that have the tridents and the nets. I love Dean. I can't remember how they pronounce it because they talk about that a lot in the commentary.
Yeah.
But Dean's like, those are called these. That's my favorite gladiator. Like, I love his just confidence.
Oh gosh. Dean only has 4 couriers written down, and they're pretty sad. It's like, boy journalist, boy detective. Like, it's all boy.
Yeah, boy in front of everything.
Yeah. And Rusty comes up like, oh, I'll just put number 5 here, super scientist on you. Just trying to hijack the boy's future.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It is sad. The boys leave. Billy asks for a moment alone with Rusty and being like, I hate to be the person to tell you this, but these boys are not prepared for adulthood. Rusty's like, well, have you seen Dean's little mustache? He's like, no. What college do you think is going to take a transcript from a dot matrix printing from a learning bed, and the things the bed are teaching are more outdated than Funk and Wagnalls. There's a really weird little reference here where Rusty says, oh, pish posh, they've been around the world more than, and they named the guy who was suspected to be, what is his name?
Gaetan Degas, the suspected patient zero for HIV.
It's one of the weirdest polls.
Yeah,
in the show,
just like you would very specifically have to know it.
Yeah, and they say that too. They're like, "Oh, it's just for people who read the same Wikipedia that I did."
I feel like it's a weird flex, but I knew who he was.
Yeah, I had no idea. I looked it up. Maybe unlike you, I don't believe in conspiracy theories about how AIDS was spread.
No, it's just I know. You don't believe in facts.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he said, regardless, this may not matter because Hank didn't graduate.
Yeah.
And Rusty screamed, Hank. Yeah.
Yeah, and just tearing into him like, oh, you're gonna get a job, mister. We're gonna make you work everything off here. It tears into him, and Hank is packing his things. He says, I'm gonna go join the army. And Hatred's like, hot damn, army will do you good, best decision you ever made. But he gets deflated right away, like, oh, it's not that army. We're gonna find out. He's gonna go join Sphinx.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A series of scenes I like a lot.
Yeah.
We cut over to New York. Baron Underbite is begging on the street, talking about how they used to be on top of the world with manservant.
Mm-hmm.
And a possible security guard comes out to rustle him and the other vagrants, a veteran as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the vagrants is Phantom Limb in a disguise, who kills the guard and steals his outfit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he sneaks inside and gets up to the penthouse where we see Professor Impossible all stretched out in his office, kind of making this big net. He's gone full Howard Hughes without Sally. And Lim is trying to seduce Impossible to the dark side. Impossible is holding on to this idea that he's a good guy, which is very funny for a Reed Richards stand-in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I can't be a bad guy. you work for me. Real fun performance.
Yeah. They're interrupted because Phineas Phage bursts in. Phineas Phage is Impossible's arch, right? And he's just trying to break him out of his funk. You've been holed up here depressed for months. Let's get back in the game, buddy. But when he sees Phantom Limb, he's like, no, you can't. He's my arch. Get your own.
Well, he says that, and he's like, oh no, it's Phantom Limb. I'm going to go tell the guild.
Yes.
I'm telling. And just starts running away. Help me, Richard, or I'm done for. He says he can't help, and he just has him hold on. So Lim uses him as a slingshot.
Yes.
To take down Phage as Phage is falling. He goes, help me, proteins. And we get to see the proteins, this little group that never do anything.
Yep. Oh gosh. But Impossible is in. It's the first time.
Yes.
The first time he's been efficacious or useful to anybody here. So he's in a vulnerable state. So Hank shows up. He just walks right into the Sphinx headquarters. And is like, all right, I'm here to join. He asked for Brock, but Brock is out on a mission in a tomb. It's the Vatican. And his partner, who's on the mission with, he's incompetent at hacking the door, and they get trapped. Another extremely obscure reference here. Where did you recruit this guy? The Albert Merrill School? You would have to have lived in New York City to know this, because apparently
DeVry University, but for New York, it sounds like.
Yes, it was like a computer science school that just was very very poorly looked upon. It was part of like fraud lawsuits and stuff. Like they would accept people as recruits or whatever, people who didn't even speak English, when none of their staff was was able to speak that. It was just it was pretty rough. So like, oh, did you hire this guy from someplace that trains out incompetent people?
Did you your memory might be better than mine, because there are things that are sometimes call forwards that I miss because I don't have the full rewatch fresh in my head. Mm-hmm. Does this ever pay off? Is this guy somebody? Or is it just like they send out a shithead?
I think they just sent him out with a shithead. Like Brock even says when he comes back, like, never again,
I in my mind, I remembered, I thought they did something with this, and I could be, I could be completely wrong. Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird for Sphinx to almost intentionally sink the mission by sending an incompetent asshole.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's weird Sphinx behavior.
Yeah.
I think.
But yeah, the trap is sprung, and Vatican guerrillas dressed up like the Swiss Guard come out. This is
Swiss Guards, Vatican guerrillas.
Just a particular fascination of Jackson Publix, the Vatican.
The Swiss
guerrillas.
Guard are fucking fascinating. Dude.
Oh yeah.
Like they still use halberds and shit, but in 1981 someone tried to kill the Pope and they started leaning more on guns and things. Previous to that they used mostly halberds. So someone was like, well, wait a minute, guns. And they're like, oh shit, we might actually have to bodyguard.
No.
Very funny.
And I'm as big a fan of a halberd as you're gonna find, but
yeah, it doesn't stop a bullet.
No,
unless you spin it really fast.
Well, yeah, but then you got to be you got to be one of the Black Knights from Dark Souls to do that. Come on.
Yeah, I don't have that weapon art. I don't have the stamina. Hank keeps trying to get their attention until eventually he throws his backpack down on the ground and it unplugs their machinery. So Brock is alone. He cannot get support. He's like uploading the codes to the door. Or getting the codes uploaded, so he has to fight the guerrilla guards. Yeah, and Hunter is really pissed. This ain't the honeycomb fucking hideout. I'm not hiring junior G-men. I love the honeycomb hideout from Honeycomb cereal.
And Hank counters with a very good point. He just kind of he talks himself up. He says, I'm the most qualified recruit you're ever going to find. I've been training under Brock my whole life. I've been to all continents, including outer space, Atlantis, and Brigadoon.
I love it. I would love to see their Brigadoon adventure. I want to see Rusty get real over Brigadoon. When he says this, one of the Sphinx operators starts the slow clap, and Hunter just throws the phone at him, which I love.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Calls over to Shirley. Get Chachi here suited up.
Yeah. They're gonna just get him out of their hair basically is the idea, I think.
Yeah.
Rusty takes Dean, absolutely covered in state college gear, to state college interview with the dean there. When they cut over to that, I love the dean's opening line where he's like, I understand there's some confusion, but no, it's a title. Just like that implied joke.
That was Dean's like opening line. Like that's what he thought it was going to be. Like, oh, we share a name, don't we?
And then it just dean of the college. I'm the dean of the college. Like it's very funny.
So will I be replacing you? Oh God. Just his naivete.
There's a rally, like an assembly taking place. Rusty said it must be one of those take back the night rallies. Great place to meet chicks, by the way.
What a fucking asshole.
What it actually is the Impossible Science Center. We get Roy Brisby, lots of callbacks to season 1 in this episode, giving a speech that ends with an advertisement for the new Busy Bee DVD. And we see the investors here. We get a great story about the investors in the commentary.
We do.
With the original plan.
Yeah, well, because this was written around the time of the financial collapse, they're just figured like, oh yeah, like we're going to include some insurance people here. We might as well make them look like vampires because they're fucking evil, right? And so they're just kind of like, all right, well, if this ends up being a detail we can use it, but otherwise they would just be these creepy people as a representative of this of this company.
Well, specifically, Doc says the idea was there'd be 3 of them, and they would be 3 different famous Draculas.
Oh yeah, so they'd have Bela Lugosi, they would have Gary Oldman, and then they realized they couldn't think of a third famous Dracula.
They tried to do Christopher Lee, but Christopher Lee doesn't do a voice. He just talks like Christopher Lee.
Yeah, it was Frank Langella, they said. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, that's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he's just going to use his regular voice. So then they just cut all the dialogue and made him silent, and it just worked fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, originally they were intended to be Draculas.
Yeah.
The MC says, Professor Impossible couldn't be here for his dedication, but then Richard flies up in the Impossicar, poorly shaven, his hair like self-cut, like looks like absolute shit.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Oh, is your wife joining us?" "No, Sally and I, I need to go to the restroom. Long flight."
And he goes into the restroom, and then Lim just climbs out of the rubber body. I love the line that they cut away from on this, like, "Oh, I thought I needed a poop, but it was just you in there."
Yeah. Yeah. Feel real weird. And he looks at it in the mirror, he looks like shit.
Yeah.
And Phantom's like, "You try cutting rubber hair with one arm and an invisible one at that."
Yeah. Just rubber hair. Oh God.
I always wanted Mr. Fantastic to do more stuff with his hair and teeth. If I was him, I would be so terrifying.
Just extremely long, floppy teeth. Just
tooth tentacles, just like coming out and grabbing somebody.
No, couldn't, can't, won't.
Give me Mr. Fantastic's job. Like, I will do cooler things with it, please.
Oh, assuredly. They at least do less monstrous things.
Let me write Fantastic Four, and I'll do a 6-issue arc where Mr. Fantastic just hangs out in an Airbnb and does all the cool shit I can think of to do with his body. We'll call it like Origins or Revelations or whatever. It'll sell like gangbusters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Go back to Sphinx.
Yes. Shore Leave is shaving Hank's head. He asked for a Batman logo. So just he's like, "Oh, we're going full 1989. Let's give you a high top fade like Kid and or Play."
Yeah. And Hunter's sick of it. But I love how Shore Leave is always just down to clown.
Yep. Oh, just game to go with it. And this is his first test. They've got him in this chair. He's tied to it. His first test is to be locked into the closet and out of everybody's way. They're figuring out this will keep him busy. And he's like, he just walks out like, "Oh, you're going to have to tie me up better than that." Because rightfully so, Hank has been tied up pretty much once a week for his entire life. He knows how to get free.
It's real great. Because this doesn't work, they keep trying to find ways to occupy him with these increasingly ridiculous tests in this montage, and he just passes all of them. He's like doing push-ups over scorpions, firing this M50, and the recoil just makes it slam into his nuts over and over until he starts puking blood. I way into Hank firing a huge gun in this show.
I like him avoiding the blades of the Dune combat robot.
Just all kinds of ridiculous stuff. It's very good.
Yeah. Diffusing a bomb on the underside of a speeding Jeep. And he does it all. Like he handles everything they throw at him. He would be a good operative.
Yeah. That's the thing is there's no real reason for him not to join Sphinx. Dean does his interview with the Dean. It's real cute. And Rusty keeps pressuring him. He's like, we all know this is a formality. He's a legacy. And the Dean decides to play along. It's like, "Dean, where'd you go to high school, son?" It's like, "I have an electric grandpa bed that talks to me while I sleep."
God, Michael Sinterklaas is so good at that.
Yeah, God bless Dean. God, Dean.
Oh, and Rusty calls himself a legacy again, just trying to get things back onto the proper topic, him. But it's brought to his attention that he didn't graduate. He does have an honorary degree from an institution in Tijuana. And he loses his temper saying, just my dad built this place. He donated enough money for a wing that Rusty burned down, allegedly.
Yeah. And he's like, they basically paid for you got that rebuilt out of my inheritance. So really it's like, we gave you the money. The Dean says, "Dean, I wish you a bright future wherever it will be, but it won't be here." Rusty says, like, "Why did you even agree to meet us?" And he's like, "Honestly, that'd be nice for a change. Well, when my secretary said Dr. Venture, I thought it was going to be your brother." And just like a really brutal thing to say.
Ice cold.
Yeah. Impossible gets up to address the crowd. The idea is he is distracting them so Phantom Limb can sneak back into the chamber where he first got his limbs.
Yes.
He's just making things up on the spot. Hasn't done public speaking in a while.
And also have nothing prepared.
I have nothing prepared. The guild operatives show up and sick the diamond dogs on the scent of Phantom Limb.
Yeah. These mechanical dogs that have like rocket boosters in their back and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lim's in his old lab scrounging for the schematics, and the hounds converge on him, sending out a projection of the Sovereign, trying to talk him down, and Sovereign's like, oh, well, who died and made you the floating head in charge of everything? Actually, that would be my predecessor, Force Majeure, which is a very good name for an evil villain.
A very good. If people don't know that phrase, like what that means, it's like
it's like a gigantic
irresistible force.
Yeah,
but it's a pun on that.
Yeah, it's like a legal term, like act of God.
Yeah, really, really great villain name. Lim refuses to hand himself over, and Sovereign appeals to him like, "Listen, you're not well. You need help." The dogs attack him. And Richard, where he's telling the story of Sally leaving him. I love him and improvising getting to that.
just everything just goes back to it. He's up there sweating, barely holding it together. And Lim flees into the background calling for Richard's help. Richard's plan isn't so much to help him, but to just do increasingly big distractions and to keep the crowd,
including turning himself into a big flag, which I love,
and singing "My Country 'Tis of Thee." Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Brock returns from the mission with the rookie, swearing he's never going to go on a mission with him again. And Hunter and Shore Leave are like, oh, that's great. We're just training your new recruit. He's like, well, better not be somebody like him. No, it's somebody you worked with before. He's over here. He's like, isn't it the mind erasing device? They pull it out. Hank comes in, but Hank's like, nope, you got, pass your test again. The old mind erase trap with the old tinfoil helmet. Fix it again with the how they got out of the Joy Can.
Yeah,
so many callbacks in this episode.
Yeah,
it's like tons of season 1 DNA.
Yeah,
here,
and I just love clever, resourceful, but still crazy Hank.
Yeah, he's good at this.
He's competent. It's what he was. It's literally what he was born for.
Lim fights the dogs and the guild operatives, eventually grabbing onto one of the dogs and steering it around, making the guild operatives kill each other and stuff. While Impossible creates the distraction, eventually Lim explodes out the front door and Richard has to catch him.
Yeah.
Rusty goes, this time is, this isn't my fault. And that's the end, or that's the, end of that thing. Like they get away.
Yes.
From the guild operatives.
Yeah. And the real ending that we actually get is this incredibly sweet scene where Hank is sulking. He was rejected. He passed all the tests, he thought, with flying colors, and they still said no. He's up. His hair is short. He looks like classic model Hank. He's wearing his Aquaman pajamas. He's crying into his pillow, and Brock comes in to comfort him. Saying like, "Oh, I like that you look like yourself." And this is also the point where he stops wearing Brock's jacket, trying to be like him. And I love this exchange. Hank says, "I feel like that Jewish guy who lost his power when they cut all his hair off." And Brock goes, "Samson?" And Hank replies, "No, Lenny Kravitz. It's not all about you, which is an incredibly funny line.
It's very good. Brock, listen, Hank, you don't want my life. I don't have that much to show for it. I just got a bunch of Marlboro bucks. Yeah. Marlboro miles in this. He's like, do you have enough to get a canoe? He's like, yeah, but I'll never get to use it. It's very funny. And then he says, when he reveals that Hank actually passed the test, Hank is really elated, for a moment, but he's just like, why wouldn't they let us join? And he's like, because you need a diploma. It's very like after school special. Yeah. You don't need a diploma to join fucking Sphinx.
No, you don't. He's just trying to.
Sphinx is checking your fucking resume, like getting your transcripts.
Yeah. It's just like, I can't imagine Sphinx has an HR department. They're an extra.
It's just Hunter like abusing you. And then,
they're an extra legal paramilitary force. Like, come on. And Hank's like, oh my God, God, I can't believe they told you this. And he slams his head against the bed in frustration. This causes the dot matrix printer for the diploma to unjam. Of course, he actually graduated because this is not an actual education. So he has it. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, so I can join. I've got a diploma. And, oh, did I mention that you also have to be 18? He just can't join it because Brock needs to protect him, right?
Yeah, they don't want him to die. There's not clones now.
Right.
We get our credits. In the end, Phantom Limb is now, he's in the Impossible Penthouse office. He's in his former glory, and Richard Impossible is now in a dark uniform, his villain uniform. It's like, I'm no longer Dr. Impossible. I'm Professor Incorrigible, indolent. He's keep trying to come with names. Little gag here. Until eventually Underbite walks in and asks to join up.
Yeah.
So we're going to get them, and then Fat Chance is going to join up. We're going to get the auditions for that, which is one of my favorite scenes in this show. The Lady Hawk, Lady Bird Johnson mashup is really inspired.
Very good.
Yeah.
Oh, man. The Phantom Limb stuff in this does absolutely nothing for me. I gotta say. It feels like it's ground that they've already covered. I am really here for the continuation of Rusty just being overweening when it comes to Dean, and I am here for Hank coming into his own. Anything with the boys getting their characterization is something that I'm going to dine on, and I'm going to love when we get the duet of episodes, which I just learned were almost just one episode.
Which would be fucking crazy.
I know, right? But we're gonna get Bright Lights, Dean City, and Everybody Comes to Hank, like 2 banner episodes of the show, and this is really laying the groundwork for that. Yeah,
I think I'm a little bit warmer on it because I like it whenever we're doing a villain that isn't the Monarch.
Yeah,
and I like Professor Impossible. I like coming back to him because I like that character. I think he's funny. And a funny voice performance. I think Phantom Limb has basically lost his mileage for me as well.
Yeah.
In terms of jokes and everything like that. But the things that happen around him during the season and the next I'm okay with. And then when he just becomes a sounding board for Dr. and Mrs. the Monarch, I think he's a little bit boring. But I also think that side of that plot is a little bit problematic anyway. Not problematic like it's, problematic.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Perfectly to me.
It's a little weak. Yeah,
a little weak. But I do like Professor Impossible. So there's a couple whenever we're in like ancillary zones that aren't the Monarch, I'm pretty into it. Like the Triad, JJ's crew, Professor Impossible. Like anytime we go to Billy and Pete White, anytime we go to one of those a secondary thing that isn't the Monarch, I'm pretty into it. Yeah. So we're looking forward to more with this. To me, this is very middle of the road.
Yeah.
But it's in my favorite season, so that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for watching. We appreciate you, or listening and watching, hopefully. We appreciate you, and we will see you next week. If you like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
Yes, you can. You can also leave a rating or review in iTunes or your podcast directory of choice. And of course, tell your friends if you know anybody who likes Venture Brothers.
Yeah, get your Venture Brothers fans.
Yeah.
Fan friends in on us. And until next time,
go Team Venture.
Team Venture.